Welcome to the Innovators, the podcast where we talk to the people building the future. In each episode, we sit down with technologists, founders, researchers, and engineers who are doing real, impactful work. They're applying technologies in ways that change how we live, work, and think. Whether it's breakthroughs in AI, climate tech, health systems, or digital infrastructure, this show is about the people turning ambitious ideas into working systems. No hype, just thoughtful conversations with the folks making it happen. Innovators, a podcast about smart people doing amazing things. Today on the show, we have Mikhail Baklanov. He is the CEO of Donkit, which is an AI startup. I'm sure everybody and their dog has an AI startup right now. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about what you guys are working on?
Yeah, so we are trying to solve the problem we faced for a few years before we started this journey. This problem is actually about retrieval augmented generation complexity.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is enterprises actually spend over 60 billion a year trying to make this RAG, or retrieval augmented generation, accurate and reliable. Today it takes 18 months of experiments and the entire team of engineers, and even then accuracy often isn't enough for production. And the idea of Donkit is to change this. We compress this 18 months into 2 days. One single engineer gives our RegOps agent a goal and their data. And then it automatically runs hundreds of experiments with this RAG configurations to deliver a production-ready system. While building, so we pivoted to this solution in March, and by August we built a closed alpha version. There are 12 enterprise teams are now piloting it, and basically, that's the main idea. So the idea is to empower AI developers with the tool that will allow for them to do context engineering and memory management much more easier than it was before.
So for context, the idea of a RAG is basically I'm able to upload all of my data, corporate data, into a system, and it's basically mine. It's sovereign, and
exactly.
And you allow for the AI to search that as opposed to searching the entire internet. So if I'm, I don't know, NVIDIA or something like that, and I need to know what the chips look like 10 years ago, you can give me that information.
Exactly. It's like sometimes when I explain this approach to people who are not very familiar with what RAG is, I usually use a metaphor with a bookshelf behind your back. Like if you would ask me any factual question, I don't know, which year Napoleon was born or whatever. And I don't remember for sure. I do remember intuitively that it was in 19th century, 18th century probably, right? Historical base, but I don't remember the exact year. And in this case, I can take my hand, take the book from this bookshelf and read out like the fact with the link to the official source. The real RAG is like a library in this case, right? Because it's complex. There is a librarian inside. There are a few indexes, storages, so a lot of approaches how to store and manage this amount of books or this amount of notes. And Donkit in this case is kind of this library factory.
And do you still have clients who are afraid to use AI because it'll be, I don't know, it'll steal their information, or like talking to the AI is going to be problematic? Is that still a thing, or has that gone away?
I think so. From what we heard during our customer development, we talked to more than 80 head of AIs in the United States, and AI adoption is still the thing. So the main challenge they mention as the most bothering for them is actually that people don't understand how does AI work. That's why we still can see how people, the person, they try to ask some tricky questions like how many letters are in strawberry, and then they got happy saying, yeah, I know how many letters, and this thing it doesn't. So that means that I do this job better. But the truth is, it's very special thing. It may be quite good in certain stuff during the job, but people don't understand it, don't feel it, and don't have a skill how to use it. And that's one of the main challenges enterprises face right now. So yeah, speaking about afraidness, that depends. Depends on the education, position, whatever. But I think it's become more relaxed. So people don't think mostly that AI will fire all of them. Because we can see from the research and whatever that actually most return on investment efficient solutions are usually based like in human augmentation.
What are your clients? What are they using it for? Like you say, that's actually really an important idea. The idea of human augmentation. What happens when they start using AI? What does a company who wasn't using AI look like after it starts using AI?
I should say it's still. I mean, that depends what we mean by using AI, because
Mhm.
like it's layered again, because we can. But in ideal world, I would say in maybe 3 or 4 years, from my perspective, the company that is fully using AI will almost everyone in every human in this company would do something more close like team lead job or manager
Mhm.
job. So even if you are narrow specialist, I don't know, software developer, procurement specialist, whatever, your job gonna be to effectively manage the bunch of AI agents, to be able to quickly give them the task efficiently, evaluate what they did. And so, yeah, today we see that the most efficient applications of AI are usually in software development, and we see that the biggest companies there, Cursor or whatever, they are also like it's software developers augmentation. And
Mhm.
we see how it changes for in terms of software developers perspective. They do not write code with hands anymore mostly, right? Their job become to make a task as efficient as possible, so the AI agent will code the best part, and they will evaluate and make a corrections, like more code review job or something like this.
Sure. I think people are talking about like organic code, right? Hand coded
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
versus code, which I think is going to be a misnomer. I mean, wouldn't it all eventually be AI code? Do you think?
Yeah, yeah. I don't love this analogy with organic, because we consider that organic is something that is better for our health, which is
Mhm.
usually true. But when it comes to code, it's actually our body or our computers do not care who was
Mhm.
wrote it. But the important thing, which is totally different, is actually the speed of iterations. There are there are two main approaches in general. Like say, let's say in math in general, right? Analytical and computational. And the existence of AI agents make computational approach more efficient, because every iteration became much faster. So you can imagine that you, I don't know, need to invent SMM strategy or whatever. So before you were needed to think hard, right? Analyze a lot. Okay, do our competitors does, and so on. Today probably the same, but you can build this strategy like in a few prompts and a couple of minutes,
Mhm.
and then you work iteratively, giving feedback to the existing strategy what should be changed. So it's a blank page problem, like, and so on. They are almost solved in this case.
Now you guys are still a startup. How have things been going so far?
I mean, this, since we are AI startup and dev tool, in general things are going great. I mean, we really fascinated with the product. We got it. It felt even so. We expected what should be built. I mean, we planned it,
Mhm.
but when we use it, it still feels like a magic. I still like I can When I use it, I can't believe that it's for real. It can just like ask me what I want and then build and take into account every like cornerstones, corner cases, and so on. And I'm still fascinated. I mean, when it comes to startups, there are usually two main, let's say three main things. It's actually about like a good product, sales, and fundraising, right? And
Mm.
when it comes to another part, which is about fundraising, it's also like hot area nowadays. So we see that there is a boost, but there is a lot of competition as well. So it's very difficult for us sometimes to explain how are we different from those who are claiming that they built just better rack architecture. And the honest answer is actually, when it comes to rack, there is no benchmark exists yet. I mean, because once there is any public benchmark, it's going to be indexed by language models, and that's not the case anymore, right? So you need to always have the fresh data, and it's not so easy to make a real benchmark for RAG solutions.
Mhm.
So that's why many players on this market, they feel like, okay, we can make a demo on your data. It doesn't make sense. We cannot compare ourselves on something publicly available on Napoleon biography. It doesn't make sense because ChatGPT knows when Napoleon was born. It doesn't make sense to make a rack over it.
So how much have you raised so far?
We raised 470 at this moment. It was an angel round, and we are moving to the institutional seed round.
And how is fundraising right now for AI products?
I have a feeling that's mostly the only thing that got funded. I'm not sure, but we see the demand. We see that everything is hot. People love to talk about it. Investors pay a lot of attention to it. So we had a lot of discussions.
All right, very cool. What's the website again?
It's Donkit.
Donkit.ai. So if you need a rag, it's going to be hard to. I mean, who is this for? Who do you want your best? Who's your best customer?
It's head of AI usually.
Head of AI.
It's head of AI. Sometimes it's principal AI engineer. Sometimes it's VP R&D. But in most cases, and the qualification criteria for us is that company have head of AI.
At what point is I don't know, grocery store chain going to want a something like this?
That depends how the big the grocery store chain is. We had one of our clients is a huge retailer, and so we built we helped them to build assistant for HR call center specialist. So they have 53 HRs inside their call center in total, who are serving 100,000 employees in different time zones and so on. That's super complicated because, like, the most each question, how much I'm gonna earn this month, is actually cost them 30 minutes of work.
Oh, wow.
Because they need to use SAP, and it's complicated. This automation is like, the idea was to initially just to augment this HR specialist to help him answer. He can type the question, or can then future iterations was like just listening what they're saying, and he see the suggestions on his screen.
Yeah, very cool.
That when it comes to small grocery stores, there is a lot of things with which AI might be helpful. I'm pretty sure they are not our clients, because what we are building, we are helping AI teams to build more accurate RAG. You don't need accurate RAG every time. There is very specific cases. There should be economic leverage, and you need to understand this ROI. So it's mostly for bigger enterprises or for teams who build AI agents who are sensitive to this accuracy. Because AI agents, they have chain of actions. In this chain of actions, so if you're, let's say, if some of the element if your RAG is actually have accuracy 80%, and you query it for 5 times, asking some data to make a final decision, to write an email. 5/5 action gonna have 32% accuracy, right? Because this accuracy is multiplied. So, and that's a big deal. That's why enterprises, in many cases, they invest a lot just to fight this extra 5% or 10% in RAG accuracy.
All right, excellent. All right, very cool. So, Mikhail, we'll be watching for your next round. One would assume that these things are going to take off pretty quickly.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right. This has been the Innovators. I'm John Biggs. We will see you next episode.